Hello, everybody. So, I'm on today to share my story, and I'm going to be doing it in two parts. I'll be doing this, which is my childhood kind of growing up story, and go into on my next one because it would be too long, kind of my awakening journey. And they're both very interesting. um, but it all ties together. It makes us who we are, everything. So, yes, I'll be doing these. Okay, so we'll just get right into it. So, my childhood wasn't really the best, but it made me who I am today. I mean, we say that, and I mean it. I really had a lot of learning to go through all of that I've been through. And I was pretty much raised by my grandma, who actually lived with us here, and she recently passed away. She followed us when we moved, and she came here, and we took care of her in her end of days. Yes, and that was, love you, Grandma. She was the one who was there for me a lot of the time when I was younger. And then, so my mom was never there. Well, not never, for a short period of time she was. I mean, I'd see her come in drunk to my grandma's here and there. And then later on, she did get custody of me and my brother again. And my brother was taken away, one of my brothers was taken away when he was born. And I was with my grandma. Well then, so my mom got custody back of us, and we lived at this kind of like religious place, and it was very religious, and I became pretty religious there. This was probably when I was like 12, 11. And then we moved from there. We were only there maybe a year, maybe two. We moved from there, and we moved to a different kind of religious place. Like, it was a place to help her so she didn't relapse. So, I mean, it was a center like that. So we lived with other people in these places. And, I mean, I'm going to write a book, because every one of these places and everything I'm going to say in this video and the next, there is so much detail to each thing, and I want to be able, at some point I'm going to go into those details, but that would be a huge long video. So I'm going to, well, you know what, we don't really write books anymore, huh? Well, I'm going to type up a book. I need to, and I will eventually, because there's lots of detail. But anyway, back to the story. So then she decided she thought she was ready. She didn't need to be in a place like that. So we moved, and I moved a lot as a kid. And she, it didn't last long, maybe 6 months, and she relapsed, and she drank every day. I mean, all the time. She did drugs, hardcore drugs. She had drug dealers come in and out. I tried my first pot from her drug dealer. It's pretty crazy. And she would leave me with my brother for days. She'd be gone. I wouldn't know where she was. I'd have school. I'd have to stay home with my brother because I didn't know where she was. I was 13, 14 at this, around there. So, I had a couple of her boyfriends I was abused by. I will say I feel I'm lucky it didn't get too far, as some people have things happen, but yes, I had things happen. And the first time, and this was when I was younger, and then a little older around this time, the second time. The first time with that person, when I had told her, she said it was my fault, so I didn't tell her the next time, right? So I was like 7 or 8 the first time. Anyway, so I mean, I want to say this too real quick, that everything that's happened, okay, I was a victim, yes, but as I got older, I had to change my mindset into thinking I was a victim, yes, and people need to be recognized and heard, and it's sad, especially with children and young teenagers, because it happens and it's not okay. As being the person, when you get older, you can't have a victim mindset anymore. I mean, you can choose that, but for me, it doesn't help. It never really gets you through. You have to forgive, not forget, but when you truly forgive, you're able to change that into, okay, well, that happened and it hurts and it sucks and you have to go through that in yourself. And when you're past that, which you need to get past that, then you can turn that into power, transmute it into, okay, what am I going to do now to help others? I want to try and prevent this from happening. I want to give you tools. Let me help you. Let me tell my story so that you know you're not alone and we're in this together. Instead, we need to empower each other. So, and that I'm also saying, if something has happened, you don't stay quiet about it. I think you need to tell. You need to tell, and that's the way to get it off of you. It can't be hidden inside and it's not going to work. So it needs to come out, go through that emotion, use it to create more power as to what can I do to help the next person or try and stop this from happening. Like, it needs to be known. Okay, so back to yes, that happened. And so my mom would abuse me as well, not in the same way. She hit me over the head with phones. She'd throw me into doors, and I had a friend who I was kind of telling about things that would happen, and she was telling her mom, and then so her mom told the school. The school came to me, and I said, well, yes, it's happening, but I don't want her to get in trouble. Like, my mindset then was that my mom was just hurting and she didn't mean it. It was okay, she didn't mean it. That's how I thought about it then. And so then they started kind of keeping an eye on me, I think, because they'd kind of just call me in and see, how are you doing, and this and that. And I really didn't say as much as what was happening that was. So, well, eventually, the last kind of thing that really woke me up from that was she threw me into the refrigerator and I blacked out. And this was different from other times that I had this was different. Like, I woke up to her screaming and I'm like, whoa. And I mean, I got up and I pushed her and I ran out that door, and she said I couldn't go to school. I said, I'm going. So I ran and I got to the bus. Luckily, the bus was leaving, but they waited for me. And then so that day, then I went into the office and I said, you know what? Yes, she has been. And this was really bad, and I am scared now, and I don't know what to do. And so then that day, social services came and they were talking to me. They wouldn't let me go home. They took my brother. They had found my brother barefoot running, trying to find me. He was out he was 3 at this time, and he was out running down the street. She was at home passed out. Oh, there's so many stories. I mean, I'm going to go in depth in those sometime, but so yes, where am I at? Um, yeah, so then we couldn't go home. I ended up staying at my friend's house for a little while. Me and my brother, and we ended up staying somewhere for a little while. You know, they weren't really good about, I'm sorry, but they were not really good about keeping us hidden or anything like that. Like, she knew where I was. She knew. She was mad. My friend's mom had to, like, confront her one time because she's going crazy. So, I mean, no. CPS, social services, CPS was not good about keeping us hidden. There are things in the system that need to change, that's for sure. But then, so eventually, me and my brother were taken away. And during this time, I mean, I moved back in there with her, and me and my brother, and my grandma came to live with us while we were with her, but my grandma couldn't do anything, you know, so she was still mean and abusive. So then, but this was in the process, they had to find out where I'm going. So I mean, for like 3 months, I was back with her after all this happened, and wow, it was wild. I was back and forth with her, and so then I ended up, I guess I should throw this in there because my dad was never there. He was in prison pretty much my whole life. So, I mean, he wasn't there. Later on, we had a relationship, and that can be part of my whole story that I'll tell one day in typing. But no, so later on, we built a relationship, but no, he wasn't there. Okay, so then we were taken away. We actually both went with my other grandparents, my dad's parents. And, well, then my brother wasn't able to stay there long. He ended up having to go into foster care. And so it was just me with them. And that's one of the things that really tore me apart for the longest time, was not being with my brother, and I didn't want him to feel like I abandoned him. And when I got older, I would always say, I'm going to adopt him one day. I'm going to. But when I got to that point, I was not ready, and I was 21, you know, I mean, I was that age, 20, 21, where it was about me. And, so, while I was there with my grandparents, I really got more, you know, I was with my cousins, and so I built a relationship with them, and I was pretty close with my uncle and aunt and stuff too, and it was only me for such a long time. I feel like growing up it was only me, and then my brother a little bit. And then, so yeah, I loved like this feeling of family and us getting together and all this stuff. But the thing with that is, you know, I feel like in this time, okay, I had like kind of an epiphany where I thought, I do not want to be like my mom. Like, I'm not going to do drugs. I'm not going to drink like that. I'm not going to be like her. So, whereas before I was kind of stuck with this like child mindset of just a lot of emotions and anger. So, moving and getting away from that really helped me. But then even though I knew that, I was still a teenager learning. So then I made some mistakes. Yeah, we got caught for some things that we weren't supposed to be doing, some dumb things. And, yes, I loved that relationship, loved that feeling. And even my grandparents, they really did try as much as they could. There were some things like that, you know, I'd be told, well, if you want some new clothes, go ask your grandma. Like, go ask your grandma. Like, so that happened, and that kind of hurt me at that time too. That was something that I was not happy with at the time, but I mean, it was better than the last situation, so I wouldn't complain. And then as we kind of grew older, me and my cousins and all of us, like I went kind of back and forth between my other grandmas and these as I got older, like of age, like 17, 18 after high school. Well, I'll add in here real quick. I was very, there was a point I kind of made bad decisions, and then I went on this total opposite, like okay, I got really into the military. I loved structure, and I loved pushing myself. So I was very, I didn't want to be, I was always a tomboy too, I'll say. I was always tomboyish, even now. But I've kind of learned to be more ladyish now, but I was always tomboy. So I did, I loved that stuff. I wanted to go in the military, and I did. I went to boot camp, and that's part of my whole other story. I'm not going to go into that. The Marines. And that took me back into kind of the opposite. Then when I got out, I didn't want to, well, I won't say, when I went through what I went through to get out, and after, I was really the opposite. I was like, I didn't want to do anything. I don't want to exercise anymore. People are just messed up and mean. And before this happened, I could cry. Like, wow. You could say your hair looks funny today, and I could cry. Like, I was very unstable emotionally. I was still kind of living in this. I hadn't forgiven yet. I just knew I didn't want to be like that, but I hadn't forgiven. So I was very, like, could cry like that, could be sad like that. And if somebody did something that my mother did to me, that hurt me. And I felt like, you're a terrible person because you did this and she did that. And it was kind of like I couldn't see the big picture then. Now I do. But then that's how it was. I compared everything to that, and you're bad if you do that to me. You know, if you wanted to do it. So, yes, then after that, yes, I went the opposite. I mean, people would say, what happened? Like, you don't cry for anything anymore. Like, you used to care. Now you seem cold-hearted. And so, and I kind of was. I'm going to say I was. Like, something, and that's in the stories, that happened there. I did. I mean, it took me the opposite way. Here one day, I'm like crying about everything. You drop a pin, I'm going to cry because it looks funny. And the next, I'm like, someone's screaming in my face, what the heck is wrong with you, you piece of crap? And I'm like, Like, so no. I had to learn balance later on. In which Rico really helped me with that. And being into my true self had really, really helped that. And having a kid. Okay, so now then, so yeah, then I kind of became the complete opposite. And I'll tell you that during this time, from the time I was a kid, when I was a kid, I would have dreams, and I'd come to my mom. Well, my grandma, she didn't really listen. So when I would go to my mom, I thought she was listening, and these Christian people, and these religious people, some were accepting, but some were not. So it's like, when I'd tell them about these, I really had dreams and premonitions and things, and they were like, oh, is that the devil? Like, So then I didn't know. I'm like, was there something wrong with me? And so then when I got to be, I kind of didn't say much because of that. And then in my teenage years, I would tell my grandma or my aunt. I really told her a lot of stuff. And I'd tell them things, and I'd have these premonition dreams. I saw things, and they were dark things. And I was dumb and messed with Ouija boards because I didn't know no different. Now I know. But, and so, I mean, that's how I always have had my gifts, as I have always had. I don't get dreams as much anymore. I don't have, like, the premonition stuff so much. I've, like, got different abilities now, but some the same, but I mean, no. Premonitions, I don't even get those. Those I had, regular. And seeing dark things, regular. So that's kind of how I know I've always had these gifts. And then, so in my next video, I'm going to go into my awakening when everything kind of changed and happened. I might leave off, though, too. It's getting kind of late. So it's getting to be a while. So I'm going to also, before I go into all that, then I'll start the next part of my story with my, because then it kind of goes into my first child. So I'm going to start with that, leaving off from here, and go into, because it kind of started there. That was kind of like, pshoop, and then after a little bit after that was like, whew, okay, so I'll stop here, and on the next video, we'll go over all that stuff. All right, so please remember, guys, that, well, I love you all, and I just want everybody to be so open with each other, and we need to come together, and no feeling sorry, just empowering and getting us up on that next level. Love you guys.